Now, maybe the most interesting part of the Silent Service Manual, something that I may have once known but totally forgot. Enemy shipping sunk during World War II. Most people think of the Pacific War as being all about the air war, especially because it was the first war when the U.S. used carriers, and it was also what brought the U.S. into the war because Pearl Harbor was an air attack, not an attack by surface ships. As historians have also pointed out, Pearl Harbor forced the U.S. to use carriers and submarines because those were the ships that were left after Pearl Harbor. So you see the damage done by carrier-based aircraft here. Usually damage to shipping in a war is measured in tons of displacement sunk. But if you notice, the submarines were far ahead of everything else. They were tremendously destructive. Because you look at, like, the surface craft were actually the least effective in the war. And even the air power, if you combined these two, you could tell, even if you combined land-based and carrier-based air, they would have been nowhere close to as effective as the submarines, even though the submarines were somewhat crude, and they were also quite dangerous, as I mentioned earlier. These are the records. So Tautog was the deadliest in terms of number of ships sunk. And the Tag was the second most destructive, and it also held the record for most destructive patrol. So this is an explanation of the scenarios in more detail. They have the names of the captains. One of the things I didn't know is that the Tag's captain, let me jump down here to the patrol scenarios. As it turns out, they don't actually mention him here, but you remember his name from earlier, Richard H. O'Kane. The point is he was still alive at the time that I first played Silent Service, which is something I didn't know at the time. Incidentally, these routes of these patrols were the actual routes used by the submarines in World War II. You don't have to follow these routes. This is actually an early example of an open-world game. You could sail your sub all over the Pacific as long as you have fuel, and you have a fuel gauge down at the bottom of the screen to show you how much fuel you have left. So as long as you make it back to a friendly port before you run out of fuel, you could take the submarine anywhere you want, and you could also go to the battle, mode, even if there's no target. So if you want to experiment with the sub a little bit, you could do that. So anyway, I guess I'll finally demonstrate the game in the next video, for real.